what they can accomplish. In any case, though, they're going to try to send their foreign minister, Roland Dumas, to Baghdad, but they're not the only ones they're going to try. The European community still wants to have a meeting with Tariq Aziz, even though Tariq Aziz said that he would not meet them in Algiers. They may also have to go to Baghdad. The Swiss foreign minister has sent private notes to both Tariq Aziz and James Baker, saying that he's ready to mediate between them. Okay, Pierre, thanks very much. So let's move finally back to Geneva, where ABC's Barry Dunsmore has been listening to the Iraqis and the Secretary of State today. Barry, at the end of this very long day, you just cannot miss the enormous difference in priorities Mr. Baker and Mr. Aziz appear to have for the Middle East. What's the clue to us understanding the foreign minister from Iraq today?
Well, Peter, we begin with the premise that Tariq Aziz was going to be self-serving to justify what may be considered unjustifiable. But when he begins to talk about the double standard that the West holds against the Arabs, he's certainly going to strike a responsive chord with millions of Arabs, and it's not just over the Israeli issue. For many centuries, the Arabs have been treated like third-class citizens and have been told by the colonial powers, do what we say, not what we do. And so when he was able to stand up there speaking good English and explain quietly the exposition of the Arab position, he was probably making a lot of very good points and probably making a lot of Arabs feel that he had a very definite point to make. Now, this may not be particularly good, it may not solve anything, but it probably won't do any harm either for that to have been said. Okay, Barry Dunsmore in Geneva, and my other colleagues as well. Thank you. In a moment, the Congress makes final preparations for its debate about
It was late here tonight when Karen Mines and her children joined thousands of others who have fled this country.
I know, my heart just is pounding so fast because of what happened in Geneva, and I'm so glad I'm not going to be here.
Brad Willis, NBC News, Saudi Arabia.
Jane Pauley joins me now from New York, and of course other Americans were reacting to today's events as well. Jane, what's the latest on that?
Well, Tom, there was no more dramatic reflection of this emotional day than on Wall Street and other markets. NBC's chief financial correspondent Mike Jensen has that story.
World financial markets reacted violently today to the developments in Geneva. War, or the threat of war, is bad for most stocks. Stock traders had one eye on the market and one eye on James Baker.
I did not see, frankly, any flexibility in their position.
What Baker said sent the stock market into a tailspin. Earlier in the day, the Dow Jones average had shot up 37 points in anticipation of a peaceful settlement in the Persian Gulf. Then, at 1:55 p.m., Baker dashed those hopes, and the stock market plunged 46 points in just 7 frenzied minutes. A few blocks away, in the oil trading pits, the reaction was equally swift. Crude oil futures had been trading down $3.50 a barrel on the prospects of peace. At 1:55, they reversed direction and shot up $6 a barrel in 7 minutes. On Wall Street, traders and brokers are taking a gloomy view of war in the Gulf, mainly because of its effect on oil.
I think people are going to panic a lot and start dumping, and I think the market's going to go down.
By the end of the day, stocks were down 39 points, down 96 points for the week. Crude oil ended the day about where it began, at $27 a barrel. Mike Jensen, NBC News, New York.
Back in a moment with the crisis in the Soviet Union.
And now, given the failure in Geneva, it's what most members of Congress believe will pass.
Neither the United Nations nor Jim Baker blinked. Now the question is, will the Congress blink?
And the answer is, well, the answer is that after a couple of days of fierce debate beginning tomorrow, the Congress will probably give the president exactly what he wants, knowing there's no way to stop him from doing what he wants anyway. Jim Wooten, ABC News, Capitol Hill.
The news from Geneva produced some enormous swings in the financial markets today. After dropping early in the day, the price of oil jumped nearly $7 a barrel in 10 minutes. It finally closed at just over $27 a barrel, about where it was yesterday. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrials, which had been up more than 40 points, finished the day down 39 to close at 2470, and that is a swing of more than 80 points. And the trading was heavy. We'll be back in just a moment.
And it won't be long. They have spent 5 months training and waiting in the desert. 5 months in which they've learned a lot about their profession and themselves.
Our unit spearheaded the whole Desert Shield action here, and we were like the first ones on the ground here. We're the one that, you know, so to speak, put the line in the sand. Metal to metal all the way to the left. Seen them, you know, go from the high school kid to soldier.
Mike came over here as young men. Now we're men among men.
The men don't know exactly where they're going, but the camp is coming down. They've been ordered to pack it, ship it, or trash it.
I'm sending back my letters because I want to keep them from my girlfriend. She's kept up pretty good correspondence. She tells me that she's waiting on me and she can't wait till I get back home.
Well, we have to give up soccer ball. Iraqis are really going to get it now.
These men are in good spirits, confidence high. The January 15th deadline, now only 6 days away, has been a morale booster for the 82nd.
If there's any unit that's more prepared to go to combat, it has to be the 82nd Airborne Division.
These men believe their 5 months in the desert have not been totally wasted.
I'm pretty sure everyone just wants to go home, and you know, if it takes having to go to war, it takes having to go to war.
Mark Litke, ABC News, in eastern Saudi Arabia.
As always, it was harder to gauge the public mood in Iraq than it is here at home, but what we heard today was generally pessimistic. Iraqi television showed pictures tonight of Saddam Hussein meeting with his military advisors, and it quoted him as warning that if America becomes involved in a Gulf conflict, in Saddam Hussein's words, you will see how we will make them swim in their blood. We'll have some of the rest of today's news when we come back.
Growing alarm that it would be the first target of Iraqi retaliation. NBC's Martin Fletcher is there tonight.
Foreigners are leaving Israel fast, frightened by Iraq's promise made again tonight in Geneva to attack Israel first. Over the past month, 5 nations have advised their citizens to leave Israel, though few people will admit they're scared.
Other people, of course, are frightened about the war, and they really think about going back. They have nightmares and so on. It's not so easy.
There's more tension than usual at exam time at the Hebrew University. Some foreigners are taking their exams early so they can leave Israel before war.
For the worst case, we've heard that Saddam's threats to bomb Tel Aviv. So obviously, I don't want to be here. They keep saying that this is going to be a chemical attack or biological warfare. And I don't even know half of what that means, and I'm not willing to risk that for my body.
Stephanie Lee isn't alone. Thousands of foreigners are packing up and heading out, afraid of war. Israelis find it easier. You wouldn't think here Saddam Hussein's promised to attack Israel first, or that he'd burn half of Israel. But then they're used to wars.
Well, I'm not worried. There has to be an end to somebody who's crazy.
There's nothing I can do about it, so I'm not anxious. I hope it will be okay.
At the airport, Israelis are coming, not going.
Why I am coming back? Because it's my country. I'm Israeli. I belong here.
But for all the brave talk, Israelis are ready for war. Gas masks are being given to every citizen. This Soviet Jew escaped anti-Semitism in the Soviet Union. After a week in her new home, she faces a new danger, war with Iraq. Martin Fletcher, NBC News, Tel Aviv.
Arabia tonight. Arthur, were they following the developments here in Geneva very closely out in the field today?
Very closely, Tom. Most of the units, of course, have portable radios now. Some of the troops were here in this city near an air base, were able to watch it on television, following it very closely.
And could you detect any perceptible change in the attitude or in the climate there tonight?
Well, perhaps yes. There was some hope today, though dim, that while the talks were going on, that there would be some concrete progress towards a peaceful solution. That seems dashed now, and there seems to be a resignation, although a new determination now to prepare for what could be the war that many feared they would be here to fight.
Briefly, any additional troop movements tonight?
Tonight we haven't noticed them. They've been constant, though. Commanders have wanted to move up, irrespective of diplomatic moves which may come.
All right, thank you very much, Arthur Kent in Saudi Arabia tonight. I'm Tom Brokaw in Geneva on behalf of my colleague Jane Pauley.
Over 6 hours, I heard nothing that suggested to me any Iraqi flexibility whatsoever on complying with the United Nations Security Council resolutions.
We will not yield to threats.
This was a total stiff arm. This was a total rebuff.
This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting again tonight from Geneva, Switzerland. Good evening. Hopes for peace soared and then plunged in this Swiss city today, and at the end of the day, the threat of war was not less, but greater. Secretary of State Baker and Iraqi Foreign Minister Aziz talked for 6+ hours. They got nowhere. Baker said he heard nothing, even suggesting Iraqi flexibility. Aziz refused to accept a letter from President Bush to Saddam Hussein. In Washington, President Bush said the Iraqis were simply stonewalling. In Baghdad, a new and chilling quote from Saddam Hussein was put out. If Americans attack, they will swim in their